You're listening to Darkwoods Paranormal, a place where the unexplained is approached with respect, where fear gives way to understanding, and where the stories we tell are grounded in history, experience, and truth. I'm Gabriel Von Graves, your humble host tonight. And alongside me, as always, is a producer, Raven Knight, whose research, insight, and steady presence help guide each episode from shadows into clarity. Raven, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Megan. All right. Darkwoods Paranormal is produced by Unbox Media LLC, a creative media company built on one principle: the stories matter, and how they're told matters even more. Unbox Media LLC is produced immersive podcasts, live investigations, documentary style storytelling, and original content that doesn't chase trends. It chases understanding. We also work with creators, organizers, and individuals who want their message, their story, and their experience handled with professionalism and integrity. Isn't that right, Raven?
That's right.
Oh, your volume's good. I like that. Here at Darkwoods Paranormal, our focus is simple but intentional. We don't sensationalize trauma. We don't dismiss live experiences. And we don't treat the paranormal as entertainment alone. What we do offer is thoughtful exploration through historical cases, first-hand encounters, culture perspectives, and responsible investigation. That includes private investigations in homes and properties, approached with discreet empathy and respect for both the living and the unseen. If you are someone you know is experiencing something unexplained and wants answers rather than fear, we encourage you to reach out to us here at Darkwoods Paranormal. Conversations come first. Understanding always comes before clarity. Isn't that right?
That's right.
All right. Before we bring our guest in tonight that I'm very excited for, I want to take you somewhere for a moment. There are places in this world where history doesn't fade, it settles in. Where grief, resilience, and memory press so deeply into the land that time itself begins to fill thin. Hospitals, institutions, places where voices were ignored, where pain was normalized, where survival demanded strength most people never had the luxury to develop. In those spaces, the veil doesn't tear violently, it erodes quietly, patiently. And those born near such places, those raised around them, sometimes they don't choose the calling. Sometimes the calling chooses them. Tonight, we are honored to welcome someone who has spent her life navigating that space with humility, culture, respect, and profound empathy. Our guest is Jesi Whitton, a paranormal investigator and the founder of Great Spirit Connections. She was born on notorious Charlie Comstock Indian Hospital in Edmonton, a location long associated with unresolved trauma, unrest, and lingering spirits presence within. From an early age, Jess demonstrated the ability to connect with spirits, not as something to exploit, but something to understand. Grounded in empathy and guided by lived experience, her work focuses on helping people interpret hauntings in clarity rather than fear. Now based in lower mainland of British Columbia, Jess walks where the veil is thin, offering insights shaped by culture, compassion, and deep respect for those both seen and unseen. Jess, thank you for being here tonight. We are truly honored to have you with us.
I'm honored to be here as well. Thank you for having me on today.
And thank you for the 60%. I appreciate that.
You
I
did
think
great.
he did
Thanks.
pretty good, didn't he? I think 60 was pretty good. We might give it to
Yeah,
you,
it was
Jess.
Well, thank
right
you.
on it.
Well, Jess, tell us about you.
So, about me. Yeah, I'm a paranormal investigator in the lower mainland of British Columbia. I'm in Vancouver. And I've been here for almost 22 years. I moved out here when I was a teenager from, I'm originally from Alberta, Canada.
Hmm.
And yeah, I've always been involved with spirits, with like the other side, since I was a little girl, ever since I can remember. And even there are situations that I don't even remember that my parents remember, like who's she talking to, and yeah, so I've just kind of always been that. And my gukum, my grandmother, I'm Cree, so I call my grandma Kokum, and I got my Kokum. I remember when I was really young, she said, she how many times she said it was like a mistikoya, and it's a mistikoya, like it's somebody who sees like things that you like the other side, and
Oh, like a medium.
Like
yeah,
mediums.
yeah, and that's how we say it in our language. And just always kind of set apart, just listening to my aunties and my my mom and my sisters and my gukums, kind of just understanding, like what was going on around me with myself. And just feeling that, just being set apart, and given that guidance throughout my life. And when I was really quite young, like I didn't understand it. I was never scared. When you're so young, you don't understand the difference between reality and fantasy. And as you get older, your brain starts to develop better, and you learn fear. And I remember being in situations that would scare the crap out of people, and it didn't for me, right? And then I realized not everybody sees those things, not everybody experiences those things, or are approached by things that are unseen. And I spent a lot of years kind of just upset about it in my teen years, like why, you know. But it was funny because like even when I was a teenager, even when I was like 13, 14, like I'd have my friends' moms, like they knew I was just the creepy girl, right? And they're like, Jesse, like there's something in our house. Can you? That they knew I was Cree. They're like, do you have sweetgrass? Do you like? Can you bring something? Does your mom have? Like, can you help smudge my home? Like having adults asking me to go like smudge their homes for them, right? And a few times I would, like this one woman, I considered her my auntie, but she was my best friend's mom. She wanted me to go cleanse her home, and she's like, don't go in that room. And it was her brother was staying with them, and he wasn't doing really too good in his life, not making the best decisions. And she's like, just don't go in that room. And I could feel that energy in there, even though he wasn't at home at that time. And I was like, I think we should do that room more than anything, because I could feel it was probably coming from him. And just having that natural instinct, like finding the root of what was going on, and understanding that, like things are connected to people and they can bring things in. It's not just a spirit of somebody who passed away in a nearby location or in that house, like we went deeper, right? And just naturally figuring out that understanding in the moment, and having those aha moments, and then being reassured by my elders, and my gokum, my mom, being like, yeah, like you're on it, like you're on point, like that's valid, like that's how that works, and I was like, okay, I'm not. I would often like second guess myself, but having those people around me to talk about these things really did help a lot, because a lot of people in my family are gifted, and so it was passed down. And it's also passed down to two of my children. I have 4 children, and 2 of them are gifted. And it's kind of like a pattern. The oldest one, and then the second youngest one. It's just like it's skipped. Yeah, but yeah, just going into it. And me and my sister, we're both gifted at very young ages, like around 9. We started you know, connecting to spirits. We lived in haunted houses, like a lot of, like quite a few houses my dad bought and flipped houses. Like we'd renovate them, and then I'm sure the renovations stirred them up too, you know, in retrospect, right? But we would use, you know, candles, you know, like the flame would go high for yes or short for no, and we would just figure these things out and talk to the spirits in our homes and not have this fear about it. And yeah, and my mom supported us. Like she was nervous, you know, but she was like, yeah, you guys do whatever you guys are gonna do, you know, like, and yeah, just kind of just became that the go-to. You know, we're just known to be in touch with things that other people were very scared of, you know, and developing relationships and understanding and identifying my spirit guides at a young age, at that young age, you know, 9, 10 years old, and figuring all that process out, and the intermediaries of the other side that I can connect with, and you know, carrying that into my adulthood, and just kind of just naturally being seeked out by people. Like, can you help cleanse my house? Or my phone's always going off. Somebody's going through a rough time. You know, it's like almost like I'm like an abyss of, you know, like, lay it on me. You know, I can transmute it. Like, you feel so much better. You know, like Jesi will always answer her phone. You know, and you know, over the years I got invited to do investigations by local teams, and it just happened so naturally. It was never like, I'm gonna do this one day, you know? Like, never really was big into horror, you know? Like, I never really watched, like, Supernatural, like the TV show, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, I never really, I just, when I do see those things, I'm like, oh yeah, like, that's kind of, I wonder where that storyline came from. That's kind of valid, or, you know, but I've never really, you know, I already deal with it a lot on my own already. So, um, yeah, so going into investigations, it's been really interesting. You know, I got my daughter involved when she was quite young. Like, we moved here to Lower Mainland, and there's a lot of like tear downs, like old houses and high rises getting built, and new, you know, new townhouses, like new. And so, you know, like, oh, that house is boarded up, let's go sneak in. Like, I'd want to go on, sit in the property and just sit in the backyard and feel the energy. And you know, we kind of, yeah, just kind of just was able to do that. But we go into places, my daughter, she hasn't learned how to shut it off or turn it on, and she'll be like, Mom, I think this place is haunted. Like, Mom, like, we'll be, you know, out to dinner or whatever, and I'm like, I'm shut off. I'm trying to enjoy life. Like, ignorance is bliss. Like, I'm trying to not get bothered, you know? Like, I know how to shut off the noise, right? And, but yeah, we've done a lot over the years. I've been really grateful to be in a lot of well known places like Riverview Insane Asylum here in Coquitlam. I've got to spend a lot of time inside, and me and my sister, and like days and days, and it's pretty interesting, you know, like the heaviness, especially in that hospital. Um, yeah, I'm just really grateful to be able to go in and, you know, figure it out. You know, and it's one thing to go in and give some validity of like, yes, this place is haunted, or yes, this is what I'm identifying, and this is what I'm picking up with my equipment. Okay, now what? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I kind of step in with, now what? Now what do I do? How can I help? Is there any help? And if, you know, sometimes spirits are really happy. They're just happy. They're just having a ball, you know? Like, some places it almost feels like a portal where they're just like, this is where they're hanging out, and a lot of them are fine. But you know, I can identify the hurt ones, the ones that and the ones that are causing hurt, causing grief, causing pain, identifying if it's human, non-human. I don't really like to use the word demon, because it's, you know, but yeah, just like the non-human energies that are manifesting, finding the roots, finding if I can help, and understanding who's being afflicted, and how do I deal with it in a compassionate way without insulting somebody and without hurting their feelings, or like being compassionate and being there and being a supportive person. And so every situation's different. I do other work in my life, like me and my partner, we went a few weeks ago to pick up some donations for a place that we supply donations for, people that are in need and stuff. So this guy called us up. My family, like one of his family members they're selling their house. All the stuff's got to go, and my spouse knew the details, and so he didn't tell me anything. He's like, "We're gonna go to this house." I walk in, I met with the spirit of this man, and like I can audibly hear him. Like usually I can communicate just like with within my mind, right? But I could just hear him. He was just like, he saw me and told me everything. And so I was like trying to go walk around and tag stuff that we're gonna take, and organizing stuff. And I was just like, I had to stop and like just really sit there and talk to this spirit of this man. And his son came back. He let us in and he left and he came back, and I was like kind of not really sure if I should say something, and I was like, so do you feel, because I learned like, oh, his dad had died, so it's his dad's house. So I'm like, so do you feel like your dad here? And he's like, oh yeah, I do, but only in the house here, only when I'm here. And I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I'm really into that stuff. So I was like, okay. I was like, because I have something, but can I share this with you? And it just, happens so organically, and everything that his father told me was just on point. And even the fact that he could not care less that his house is being sold. He, like he had a lot of regrets and a lot of things that are really personal and that I shared with his son. And it's like, that's exactly the conversations that he was having before his father passed away. And it was really special. And I was like, and he doesn't care that you guys are selling the house. And he's like, oh, he said to sell everything. And so I was like, oh, like even just the emotions, like everything, and so I'm gonna go to another house that this man owns and go do more help with him. So looking forward to that. And yeah, you just never know what you're stepping into, and if it's even necessary, or if it's helpful, or if it's going to scare somebody. Like when you have a message, kind of got to ask permission, because you don't want to disrupt their grieving process or bring up sensitive triggers, So yeah, every situation's different for sure with the work that I do. Yeah, 100%.
Well, thank you for all that, Jesse. That's great. So, where did it start from you? Everybody has a start point. Mine was when I was a child, and it's just like everybody else's story. In my room, seeing things, right? And back in my day, when we used to play dinosaurs. I'm that old, you know. No electricity, candlelight, all that stuff. Um, I'd see shadow people, and I would see images of people that I didn't know. That the older I get, the more likely that I meet those people that I saw. I don't. I'm thinking it was a thinning of the veil, and I know you dig a little further into that a little bit. But what for you was the start that you started seeing things and starting experiencing things, and what was it that you seen and or experienced?
I was quite young. One of the first experiences that I don't remember, I was about one or two, and it was at my grandmother's house, and my grandpa passed away a year before I was born, and he'd always sit in a specific spot at the dining table, put his work hat down on the specific part of the table, and I would go over there and I'd say, Papa, like talking to somebody that wasn't there. And one of the times, my mom, my dad, my aunt, they heard me talking to somebody that wasn't there where my grandpa used to sit, and they all looked and they saw my grandpa's hat on the table, and it slowly disappeared, just like into thin air.
Wow.
And made their hair stick up, and they were like, what is going on? And he's actually one of my spirit guides. He's always been with me, and other fellow psychics, it's the first person that they connect with every time. And yeah, it's so interesting because I never actually got to meet him in person, but I know him. But that I don't remember that time because I was so young. But when I was 3, 4 years old, I have memories of things. Like one of the ones was my neighbors was a big family. I think maybe they had like 5 or 6 kids, and I was friends with the other girl. She was about 4, and we'd play in our yards. And one day they're like, "Can she come over and play?" So I went in, and the older teenager kids, they were like talking about like, let's get her to go upstairs, and brought me to the second floor, pulled down this ladder that went up to an attic, and they were all like giggling, and they're like, go up, let us know what you see, let us know what you see. And I went up there, and they're like, it was like suspenseful. They're all huddled around the bottom of the ladder, and I look around, and I look, and I see a pair of eyes staring at me, and they're like, what do you see? And I was like, I see something. And they're like, what do you see? I was like, there's something staring at me. And I wasn't afraid. Like, I was just stating facts. And I was like, something's staring at me. And they all started screaming. Their mom came, and she gave me heck, told me to get out of the house. I was never allowed back. And I didn't understand what I did wrong, like, for a long time. And she said I was scaring the kids. She was really upset, like got upset with my mom, and like it's not funny to play these games. And yeah, it hurt my feelings, and I didn't understand what was going on at the time because I was just sharing what I saw. And they knew their home was haunted, and I learned like later on with my mom sharing like what she knew, and they were putting me in a peculiar situation. Like I guess they're trying to prank me, and it turned around on them. But I always remember that face and that pair of eyes, like it's maybe what 2 or 3 feet away from me, and I was so young.
I
And
hope they learned something from that. I really hope that they learn to not try to
yeah,
prank kids that way, because I mean it really did backfire on them, but then look, opened the door for you. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's that situation. There's also other situations around that age where in our house there was like it was like a mini mansion. We were renovating it, and there was a big set of stairs going up to the bedrooms, and no one was around. Like my sister was upstairs in her bedroom, and I think my mom was upstairs in her bedroom, and I was going up the stairs, and I kept hearing this chatter, and it almost sounded like a New Year's Eve party, like clinking, the chatter, women's voices, like dancing, like it just sounded like. And I'd turn around and I'd look, and there's nobody there. It would stop, and I'd take a couple steps back up the stairs, and it would have like I'd hear this party, and I was like, where are they? How are they hiding so fast? I was like 4 years old. I'm like, how are these people hiding so fast? I like went back down the stairs, went and opened up the cupboards in the kitchen. I was like looking around all the corners really fast to like catch who was there, but nobody was there. And years go by. Like I experienced a lot of weird stuff in that house, and years go by, and my parents were like, yeah, it was like super haunted. Like even like the people that owned it before us were scared of that house. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, thanks for letting me know now. But I didn't tell them at the time. But as the years went by, like we started to share stories, like what they experienced, what I've experienced, and it was like, wow, like I didn't realize you were going through all that. And I was like, God, I don't know. It was just part of life. I don't know. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So you shared that you're a medium. what does that mean to, in your perspective? What does it mean to be a medium? What are you? What are your abilities? I guess is what I'm asking.
So my abilities is definitely, I get a lot of people coming through that most recently passed away.
Recent,
Like,
okay.
yeah, a lot of more recent passings I pick up on more strongly. I pick up on a lot of, so those interactions are very strong. And I do like it's anything from spirits, and I'll even get a lot of like premonitions, like if I'm invited to go check out a location, and I'll have like a premonition of something there, like of a spirit showing me something before they had passed away, or like almost like a recording of their life. Like I'll see a situation, what they were going through, step by step, even the weather, like if it was sunny or if it was overcast, like all these details, exactly what they're wearing, where they're standing. Um, and then I try to figure out like what is that? Because I'll get direct messages, then I'll get those kind of cryptic like premonition things, like giving me these visions of something, and then I have to decipher, put a little logic to it, and put some work into investigating, the history, or talking with people and the families and stuff to kind of piece those together, because it's not 100%, and then I get yeah, just like the vibes of a home, even, or a location of like there's something bigger there. There's like an energy there that might not be human, might not be a spirit, might be something more ancestral, more ancient, more rooted in the land, rooted in something that's there, that is really much bigger than anything else. And I believe in that. I believe in like, especially where I'm from, being in Canada, being indigenous, being the way there's the history in the land, the the bloodshed, the turmoil, the taking over of different parts of the land, and how the energy of the earth is affected, is upset, or I believe there's memory. It's just like if we experience something and we go on our lives, we go on with our lives and we're happy, we can, like be successful and all that stuff, but we'll always think back to something that may have traumatized us in our youth or something, right? And like I believe the earth carries those things too, and things can manifest out of that, can branch off and become entities of something, and can go off and cause trouble, you know. And even with that, there's so much depth. There's still so much mystery, of trying to uncover all of those things. Like as humans, we want to identify stuff. We want to put a name to something. We want to know. But some things we can try our best to understand and try to do that, to kind of just have a sense of control and understanding. But there's still a lot of mystery to it. So I do pick up on a lot of those things, a lot of those vibes, and I believe in that there is power in prayer, and power of like acknowledgement, you know, because you can help cross people over deeper into the ether. Even though I believe like when people pass away, they're already passed over. It's just like go deeper into the ether. It's just like inviting a friend to a party, and they don't want to leave your side, right? Like go over there, like go deeper, because you'll mingle, you'll get to know all the surroundings. You can always come circle back to me. You can always circle back, but go enjoy, you know, cross over deeper, And then when there's energies that need like to be transmuted, and kind of, you can't take it away, but you can kind of alter it to help give that space of balance, kind of like a negative and positive frequencies, right? How do we do that? How do we identify the cause that hurt, that causes that negativity, and that, you know, because it can suck the life of it out of things. It can suck the life out of the trees will die for no reason. The people can get sick. You know, businesses can fail. You know, if it's built on something that's just sucking it dry. You know, so it's like every situation's so unique on how to deal with it, and sometimes you just it's too much for me. You know, like it's. And I do have a lot of people that I work with in the community. There's different elders that I work with. There's different, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm not all powerful expert medicine woman elder, you know, like I'm in my 40s and I'm growing into my role, and you know, there's a lot of goodness that can come with team effort and collaborating and knowing if, like, I think somebody is better suited for this, or you know, especially with ceremony, with what we do, with we do a lot of things with ceremony, a lot of, especially on here on the West Coast, like the drumming and the singing, you know, just like there's a lot of places around the world, like different cultures, like ringing the bell, you know,
Hmm.
like spirit bells, and
Vibrations. Yeah.
yeah, those vibrations, right, and kind of just shakes up the air, shakes up the space between the air and the ether, you know, and kind of recalibrates it. So
Absolutely. Well, and the same goes with individuals like us. I mean, sometimes we need to be recalibrated, and that's a very good word to use. If I can backtrack on some of the stuff that you kind of shared, um, how do you how do you know when a property is the cause of a haunting or misfortune? Maybe there's a property that has a lot of bad things that happen, right? Business fails. What makes you identify that a property is a cause of some harm and not a person in that property?
so it comes to me as bigger a bigger entity. Like it's almost, you know, like 30, 50 feet wide. Like it's big. You know, it's not,
So it's aerial, is what you're saying.
yeah, it's like so thick. It's like huge, like a wall of energy that I can just feel all of it across the board. Like, and I'm like, yeah, like I've learned to like, because I would second guess myself, right? And I'd be like, what is it? But if I can identify something that's like really small, and it could be, you know, like a lesser demon, or you know, like the little ones that like to go and disrupt everything, and they're little jerks, or it's something big and heavy, which is like I've learned like identifying those to the land. It's been pretty spot on. It's huge. Like it's yeah. It's just a really really big piece of the ether coming in, and it's rooted deep down. It's not like floating, you know, it's connected straight down. Like it's has as much depth down into the earth as I can see in front of me. So that's when I know it's a part of the land and the environment there.
Right. And what do you think makes up the element that is attracted to a land? What creates that negativity in the land? Is it things that have happened in that area, or sometimes is it just carriers, a bunch of people in a property through history that makes a land kind of tainted?
So I
What
think
is that element?
so I think if something bad occurred in an area, over time it can manifest into something that, say say if something say if something somebody who wasn't very nice passed away in
Right.
that area
Hmm.
thousands of years ago, you know, that human spirit can kind of take shape and kind of disintegrate from that, forget its body and forget that part of itself, and kind of,
And just holds on to the land.
yeah, and just develops into this
Hmm.
darker entity that remains there. Or it can even just be the spirit of the earth, that has just been in sorrow for so long that it's you know it's changed. And it's just like if a person was depressed for a long amount of time, it's almost like sometimes it's impossible for them to get pulled out of that mentality. It can be very chronic. So I believe like there's something similar when it's the spirits of the land. Like
And
as
how do you break that? I mean, let's say you have land that businesses fail all the time, or when people there, it's upsetting to them. There's something about it that doesn't make them feel good. How do you change that?
so identifying what's happened, what has occurred in that area historically.
Hmm.
Like what's been happening, and then how it was forgotten, how it wasn't acknowledged, and trying to look at it at all angles to see what makes the most sense, and speaking to the spirit of the land, like communicating. Like I'll put down tobacco, and I'll ask Creator to, like, I need to get this open, this communication open, and kind of have that guidance. And you know with tobacco, it's an offering for, to communicate. There's different medicines, right? So I'll put down tobacco, and I'll say, what do I need to do here? Like, what do I, like, and you get spoken back to, but it's not a voice. God doesn't, Creator doesn't, but you have those aha flood of like revelation, right? And that gut instinct, and that intuition, and you know, you
Where do
know
you
what
think your intuition comes from, Jesse? I mean, you seem you're very spiritual, and I love that. Do you think it's heritage? Do you think it's a birthright, a family member through uh, lingual? Uh, do you think it's just because you have a connection? Is there something that happened in your past that made you have that connection?
I think it's through genetics for sure. I think it's
Okay.
just, if somebody, it's just like you bring in, somebody's has a different have a certain, facial structure, and it's passed down over years. It's like that's a part of it, or part of who you are. So it's like, I think this ability was exercised enough through generations, where it just so easily and so naturally was instilled into me, you know because of the fact that there's many, especially women in my family, that have been, set apart with being seers. And so, yeah, I believe that I was born with it, because it is a part of my bloodline, and maintaining it has been key. Accepting it, maintaining it, um, trying not to use it for selfish reasons, and for, like, yeah, just learning how to work with it. But I do believe it, that's where it came from, was. And so using that intuition, yeah, it just always kind of been natural, and I've always been curious about it, so I'm really grateful that I've been close with my family to, like, understand, because you never know. Because I know I've met quite a lot of psychics, and some, nobody in their families has it, and they're just like, I don't know, this is my kid, I had to learn how to deal with it, you know and then some of them are very like this one group of women, like, that they're very audible, and they smell a lot, and they can smell things all the time, and like, and their grandma did too, and I was like, I barely smell anything, so it's like, um yeah, so it's like the style of the gift is very similar to people who are in previous generations from of me, so I've always been curious about that. It's pretty interesting, and it's, yeah.
Well, you definitely do come across as an old soul, and I appreciate that. Um,
Thank you.
in Canada, you're very connected to the land. In Canada, it is deep and rich in history of not only paranormal, but a few elements of cryptozoology, and also Canada has a history of alien activity, alien phenomenon. Can you speak a little bit about that? Have you had any encounters of that kind of?
I have. I actually have. Yeah. Yeah, you know, like when I was a little girl, we saw this UFO come down over my auntie's house. We're all outside playing, and I was so little, like, I was so little, like, there was like a trampoline outside, and my head was like level to the trampoline. Like, I was so tiny. And I remember all of a sudden there's this darkness. And I looked up, and there's this big thing in the sky, and everybody kind of freaked out and ran inside the house, you know, and I don't really remember much after that. But years went by, and my mom was sitting at the kitchen table with my aunties, and then I don't know, I just like I butted in and I interrupted, and I was like, hey, um, and then I shared that story, like what I just said. Like, I was outside, and I remember, you know, my cousin carried me in the house. We all ran in the house, and it was really, people were screaming, and they're like, you remember that? And they actually had pulled out news. My auntie had a news, 2 or 3 news articles, and there was sightings, UFO sightings that day across the town site, multiple sightings, and yeah, and she still had like the news articles, and I was like, that's so cool, because I was like, I didn't know if that was a
Validation,
dream.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was like, is it a dream? Was I, you know? They're like, no, that happened, and that's crazy. You remember? And I was like, wow, you know, and yeah, I've that was my first experience, and yeah, and then when I was a teenager, my dad, we went out to dinner, and we'd always stop, and like before we went inside the house, we'd just be looking up. I love staring at the stars. I always see
Right.
something, and I'm like, is it a satellite, or, you know? And we looked up, and there's this pile of UFOs. Like, they're right above us, and they were like kind of moves. One would move, another one would move around, and I like freaked out. And then instead of going inside my house, I ran 2 blocks to my friend's house, and because it was summer, and they'd always have like a bonfire. They're always outside, and sure enough, I get there, run to the backyard, and they're freaking out too, staring up at it too. And I was like, wow, it's actually, that's insane, you know. And but yeah, no, there's been some things that my family experienced, but those are the two when I was younger. But when I was in my 30s, I had some weird stuff. Like, I had an experience where I kept looking in my living room by the window. Something, I would just look over there, and I didn't, wasn't sure if it was like a spirit, because I had just moved into this house, you know, and I would just look, and I'd be like, maybe it was like, I would just, maybe it's a car that drove by, that a light, you know, like distracted me, or, but I just kept staring at this one specific part of the window. And then one evening, I was just there laying on the couch, and like I put my baby to sleep, and I was just laying there, and just like closed my eyes. I was just like not sleeping, just kind of just like, and I, this vision popped into my head where there was this being standing where like in that spot where the window was, and never happened before, never happened again. And I wondered why it happened in my mind's eye. You know, it wasn't like a physical thing. And talking to people that are more expert in that, they're like, yeah, when people see that specific species of alien, it's usually, um, you know, in with your third eye, you know, you yeah, cosmically they come to you. And I was like, oh, because like I understand, like gray aliens are very physical, very, you know, you see them with your eyes. So I was like, what kind of vision was that? I was like, it was just my imagination. They're like, no, like that's how they come to you, was that way. But never, there was no, just like, I'm here, for a few seconds and then never again. So I wonder what kind of message that was. I don't know. But yeah, I was glad that I shared it with somebody who I trusted, and they were able to explain like it more to me. So yeah.
That's fantastic.
I was gonna
Do
say
you think?
Gabriel, like,
Go ahead.
but maybe you're gonna ask the same thing. I know that Gabriel has a theory, and it's a very interesting theory about the correlation between the paranormal, like as in spirits and aliens. Do you believe that there is a correlation between the two? Do you think that they both exist in the same realm or different realms, or I don't know. What do you think about that thin veil?
I do believe that they exist in like a multi-dimensional way, because even like how can you like see like a UFO in the sky and then all of a sudden it's like gone, you know? It's like cloak itself just poof, invisible, you know? It's like how do they, it's more than just like bend in time, you know? It's like multi-dimensional, you know, because how else could it be, you know? We can glide in between realities, I think.
Parallel realities, absolutely. So I definitely believe that I've seen my share of things that you ponder and you wonder what it was and did you really see it, right? You try to talk yourself out of it. At least I do, because when what you're left with is reality when you try to remove all the guessing, right? I do think that it is possible. We talk about thinning of the veil, which can also translate to time slips, portals, right? I mean, they're all kind of the same theory. Um, how do you stand on thinning of the veil? Do you think that they're just hopping between portals, or do you think there is a veil that separates realities? And do you think it certain vibrations or certain elements have to be in place for that veil to be thin enough that they cross over?
I think both are true. I think there's individual portals that can be created or that are just are, but also that there's an encompassing veil of different realities happening all at once,
Hmm.
everywhere, you know. Um, and
Do you
yeah,
think
then
that's a lot where like cryptozoology comes from, like Bigfoot and other species that people see? Do you think it's the same reality? Do you think that Bigfoot is actually a creature, or do you think it's more of a phenomenon?
I definitely think it's a creature, but I like there are stories about it being protected, you know, by
Hmm.
by the by a higher essence of something that is protecting them. You know, I've heard stories about, you know, seeing a Sasquatch isn't actually the actual Sasquatch. It's like a mimic spirit protector of it, you know, so the actual Sasquatch can go run and hide.
Mimics, I love those guys.
Like it's kind of like that. It kind of like it shows up as that. Well, the actual one is getting away to safety,
Hmm.
spiritually protected, you know. But I believe it is an actual living creature, but it has protection spiritually for sure. Yeah.
And you think that's why man hasn't seen, I mean, other than footprints and shaky photos, um, do you think that's why people don't really get a glimpse or find corpse is because they are protected?
I think so. Like I mean, even you go into the government, you know, like you're never too sure, you know. Like which mount, it was like in Washington here, like just over like just south of Vancouver here, one of the mountains like erupted, like a volcano erupted and they found like body parts of, like initially it was like I don't quote me.
Giants and stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, the government went and picked up all those specific body parts and like the initial body count of like who perished during that the um went down a bit because they're like, oh, those aren't actual humans that they uncovered, you know. So just like makes you think about how much the government is protecting them, and there's
So that's definitely a rabbit hole that Darkwoods Paranormal loves to go down. I mean, you being from Canada, us being from the U.S., both governments when you control the people, you have control. And I definitely think that there's a very long podcast about government conspiracies, which I love. Ultimate power corrupts ultimately. So, I love that. So, what some of the so I don't know a lot about Canada. I've never been. I do know that it is rich in history with folklore of Bigfoot and witchcraft. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about witchcraft at all, but that's definitely an element that we are 100% open to talking about here at Darkwoods.
Yeah, there's a lot of witchcraft. There's a lot of different dark crafts, a lot of different cults over the years, going from Victoria, BC, the island there, to more inland and like towards Chilliwack, out of town here, Alberta. Growing up, there's always some sort of cult doing something over here, over there. I'm a part of this cult, and meeting people like obsessed with, Crowley, and I'd get my hands on, Lester Crowley's books a lot just by just meeting different people. I'm like, what is this, and yeah, it was huge with like growing up for sure. Like kind of, it's weird like when you're in this kind of world, like this lifestyle, and you like it's almost like you're on the same existence as everybody else. You kind of just meet each other. It's just like I have a red car. I have a red car too. It's like so I meet all these like people into all sorts of stuff, but the cults are insane. There's some really dark stuff.
Like
There's
like
some
what
really
dark cults have you encountered or do you know about?
Let's say
oh there's
Gabriel's the leader of a cult. Yeah.
there's lots of there's some stuff that can be really sad, but there's also some really great ones, like there's I think in numbers it can be really great and beneficial, like how things are becoming um, very empowering, like groups of women following the moon and making setting time aside every month to to gather together and just be happy and like embrace their moon cycles and stuff. And like people that are like super religious or stuff would be like, that's bad, you should do that, that's evil, this was a
Are
couple
you
of
referring to witchcraft? Is that what you're talking about right
yeah,
now?
like
Okay,
you could call it witchcraft for sure, but yeah,
sure.
there's some positivities, and then there's the scary stories that occur. Like I mean, there's the one, it was all over the media back in Edmonton, like the west side of Edmonton. I could send you maybe a link after, but yeah, it was just a big yucky cult bringing in very vulnerable people and taking advantage of them and stuff. So, but we don't really know what else they were doing, right? Yeah, you yeah, it's but a lot of stuff has happened. There's the satanic panic, um,
Satanic Panic. That rhymes. I
yeah,
love
there's a
it.
satanic panic here in British Columbia. It was all the rage. Yeah, like
I was gonna say, was that the 80s or the 90s, the Satanic Panic?
I think it was like 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like it was the 80s, yeah, where Satanic Panic was the whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And that kind of like puts like a scary connotation on anybody that does anything. You know what I mean? Like if you own a metaphysical bookstore, like, oh, those people are bad. They probably steal your cat and sacrifice it. Like, no, it's like, you can't put everybody underneath a terrible umbrella term, right? So, but there's
Well,
definitely,
just like everything else, there's negative and positive everything. We've had very uh, earthy, positive witches on this program, and we haven't had a dark one. Raven, you should work on that. See if we can't get a dark witch on here and
On
kind of
it.
get her perspective. But I
We
mean,
better not
then
make
again,
him mad.
right. But then it's the perspective of the person doing it. Maybe when they're doing it, we see it as dark, and maybe they see it as something different. So I think it's all perspective.
yeah,
I mean, but
yeah.
if you're killing cats, that's probably not
Yeah, we
good.
don't like that. We don't like that in Darkwoods Paranormal. Please don't kill cats. We like
No,
cats
No.
up here.
no. It's like me,
Right.
Beef
myself.
cows, no problem. We're all about a steak. But, cats, absolutely
I
not.
have a
Our
cat, and
dog.
like Halloween, I keep him inside because I just don't.
Aw.
You never know. There's
Are,
crazy.
are you afraid that your cat will get more candy than you? Is that the deal? You're like, listen,
Maybe
listen, I'm
he's
I'm for it.
cute,
Well,
but there's yeah, like even the last few years, like there was a bunch of black cats being murdered, and like there was like a pile of
Aw.
them at a local park, and it was so
there's a
sad.
pile of dead black cats.
Yeah,
I
it was
remember that story. I do
very
remember that.
sad,
Yes.
and it's like who?
What is wrong with you Canadians?
So sad,
Oh,
and
we do messed up stuff here at the
I mean,
U.S.
we
too.
can't
So
we can't
yeah.
talk over here.
you're just trying to find something to jab at me. No,
Well,
but yeah, no, it happens everywhere. You know,
it
it's
does.
but yeah,
People are crazy everywhere. I fully
yeah,
believe that.
yeah, but the satanic panic and just kids doing crazy stuff, you never really know. Like they like kids that get into stuff they don't really know. They just do it for for shits and giggles, and it's
You
really sad.
hesitated. I like that. You're like, can I say that? I'm like, absolutely, you can.
Yeah, I was like, should I say it? But yeah, like you didn't. But yeah, like they don't. You know, too much social media, too much misrepresentation in pop culture, on lack of guidance,
Lack of
especially,
guidance and misrepresentation. Absolutely.
especially with being in Canada, where a lot of Canada is developed to be what it is by welcoming everybody around the world, and it almost seems like the culture here is very economy based. So it's like leave your traditions and culture at the door when you arrive. So a lot of people have left their beliefs and
Well,
like
assimilating to a country isn't a bad thing.
yeah, so
If
it's
you
like
don't, you no longer have a country. Isn't that right, Raven?
yeah. So it's just like if I have something to fall back on with like my beliefs and my traditions and my culture to understand like spirituality or like respect of it, and then you know like I know like I have a lot of friends that they look back and they're like, oh, they have Celtic heritage or they have these things and they're
Hmm.
reclaiming that, you know, and it's beautiful to see, reclaiming like Buddhism and Taoism, the physics of Taoism. It's so beautiful, and there's strength in that, and there's understanding, and there's this reverence that becomes reawakened, and just seeing that individual understanding and that empowerment and having respect for things that are unseen, and going back to their bloodline and stuff, and it's so beautiful. And I love to study all sorts of different things around the world, like in regards to cultures and the spiritual understandings and stuff, just as a hobby, but
Well, understanding history and how things came about, I think is very important, especially your own history. Um,
yeah,
I was gonna say,
Without history, you have no future. And
yeah,
as you
it's
know,
so
governments love to
better.
change history, like Mandela effect, right? So there's lots of theories out there where is it the government trying to change aspects, therefore you question your own mind, or is it parallel universes that we're colliding into? And I can get on board on both. How do you stand there, Jesse?
you know, it's a crazy world, man. But no,
It is a crazy world, man. Absolutely.
it's a it's one of those things where like kind of just what I was saying, it's we just got to roll with the punches, like even with the whole like what you just said, like the whole Mandela effect and
Yeah.
how this world's evolving, and then kind of just having that stability
Or
and that strength.
devolving. It all depends on how you look at it.
Evolving. I'm optimistic, so I say evolving.
Look at you.
Because then we're like, okay, this is what I got to work with now, right?
Right,
So
right. Positive all the time. I'm like, listen,
not all the
we're all
time.
going to hell. I love it.
I have a good level of jadedness and cynicism, but yeah, it's like what do you have to work with, But yeah, like it's interesting, and when people are are just doing things like what they see in media, or like in movies and stuff, and we don't have those teachings. So it's
No.
it's really, yeah. I like to be there for people and kind of educate and stuff. So
You do seem like a very positive, spiritual
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And on that, I mean, how do people find you? You are from great spirit connections, right? So
yeah,
I'm assuming you've led into you go to people's houses or you're there to help people, and I think that's beautiful.
yeah.
How do people get a hold of you?
Through Great Spirit Connections, got the website, Facebook, mostly Instagram. Honestly, mostly
Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay,
If it's via social media, but a lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it is like
fantastic.
I know this girl, like, and then just
She can do things.
one thing after another. Yeah, I
Right.
just meeting people. Like I'm out at events or doing this, doing that, and or I get a message, hey, I gave your number to this person. You know, if you have time, and just kind of like it's a lot of word of mouth, more than online, but
More than
Instagram's
marketing, people just get to know you, and the
yeah,
results are positive, so they just keep on referring you. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. That's mostly how it is. Yeah, and
Do you come
I,
into the States, or are you just kind of more in the Canadian side?
more on the Canadian side, more
Okay.
local, and and BC and Alberta. Yeah,
I don't know if we're
BC.
huge in Canada, but we should be. Jesse, you should help us with that. We should be huge in Canada.
And
You know?
also I've only been to Canada once, and I think I was 5, and I don't remember it. I think we can always make that trip out there and hang out with Jesse at some point.
Up to
Um,
Canada, absolutely. How's the coffee up in Canada? We're big
It's
coffee
good.
people.
It's strong. I drink it black. I got my
Like any good serial killer, I love it.
yeah,
right.
it's actually that is one of the one of the
I would
cues.
love to. I would love to host you guys and come out here and, let's get some investigations happening and let's
Well,
check
we
what's
definitely have to do that. We're all about collaborating. We'd love to. I haven't been to Canada, but I'm. My fear, though, Jesse, is if I leave the states, they won't let me back in. They'd be like, "Listen, Gabriel, listen, you're gone, brother." You know.
That's fair.
But
Yeah,
hey,
that's why you gotta watch what you say on the podcast. You know what I mean?
right, right.
Like you have to be real careful around here.
I love that. But we definitely should do something. I'd be very interested. You seem like a very kindred spirit. I would love to get to know you a little further and see if we can do this collaboration. We have a big following. Well, Raven does, but I just kind of tag along. So I mean, it
Thank you.
definitely will work.
yeah,
I lied. It's all good.
I know, and I loved it.
yeah, for
Well,
sure. We'll definitely keep in touch
yeah.
and yeah,
Well, hang on a second. I'm gonna do an outro, and then we'd like to talk to you a little bit more off air. That's okay.
yeah, for sure.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, as we bring tonight's episode to a close, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for spending your time with us, whether you're listening live or joining us later. Your curiosity, your questions, and your willingness to explore the unknown alongside us are what keeps this community strong. Sincere thank you to our guests, Jesse, Evening, for sharing their insight, experience, and perspective. This conversation matters. They push us beyond fear and toward understanding, and that's what Darkwoods Paranormal is truly about. If tonight's discussion steered questions, conformed experiences, or made you reflect on something you've encountered yourself, we'd like to hear about it here on Darkwoods Paranormal. This show and every one we have done is produced by Unbox Media LLC, and you can find a long history of all our episodes. So stay aware, stay curious, and most of all, my friends, do stay safe out there. Jesse, why don't you hang on a little bit longer? Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.